Welcome back, guys. This is Guac from Guac Tutoring, and today, per request from last video, we're going to be going over another SAT subject test, Math Level 2 from Barron's. And so, if you guys want me to do any more of these, or guys want to do the real SAT, calc or non-calc, just leave a comment down below, and I'll get to it in the next video. But before we jump into this, I just want to go over my website again. This is Guac Tutoring. It's a non-profit online tutoring service that specialize in math, and we donate all our proceeds towards the Houston Food Bank. So as you can see below, we are recognized by the College Board Instagram, and there are tutors online. So if you guys want to check us out, we have our stats and our bio all on here. And if you guys want to book a lesson, be sure to check out this website. And I'll include the link to the website below, and as well as our email to get in touch. So let's just hop into this now. And this is again not officially released by Barron's. You will have to buy the book. So if you guys want to have the physical copy, it's going to cost around $10 to $15. Yeah, but otherwise, I have it on here. I took the test from my phone and I uploaded it using Microsoft PDF. Yeah, so let's just get started. Okay, so the slope of a line perpendicular. So a perpendicular line has a negative reciprocal slope. So the slope of this is going to be y equals negative 3 half x, right? The negative reciprocal of that is 2/3. Remainder. Okay, so we're dividing polynomials. So for this one, we're going to do synthetic division. Synthetic division, it only works if you have a coefficient of 1, right? So we have -2 here, and we can put this is stuff you will learn in algebra 2. And since we don't have an x value, we just put it here, and then -12 are constant. Let's divide this out. So we bring down the 3. 2 times -3 is -6, and then you add these two values, so that's -8. Then multiply these two as 16. Add again, multiply. 2 times -4 is 8. Bring down the 8, -16, and add this. And right here is going to be our constant. Or not our constant, our remainder. This is going to be -28 over x plus 2, right? Because this becomes x cubed, x squared, x, and our constant. Alright, moving on to number 3. So we're going to have composite functions. So we have f of x equals 3x and g. Okay, so g of f of x. So g of x is the cosine, and replace in 3x for that. Put in 3x as x. So then now we put in this value as our x value, so we can plug that into here. So pi of 3 times 3 is just pi, right? So cosine pi equals -1. I guess remember this is from pre-calculus. This is 0, and this is -pi, right? This is in radians, and then this right here is -1. That's something you learn in pre-calculus, so there you have it. Some algebra 2 and some pre-calculus all in this test. This test is pretty pre-calculus heavy, intro-calc heavy, so you guys want to take these classes before you actually take the test. So you have natural log of x times 2 plus 3, another composite function. So we have f of g of 3. So f of 2 natural log x. X is going to be g of x plus e of x plus 3. Okay, natural log of e, that just cancels out. The natural log rules, that becomes 2 times x plus 3. X is 3, as you can see from there. So 2 times 3 is 6, plus 3 is 9. A. Okay, log, sine, and find domain. This one, I recommend you use your calculator, because you are allowed to calculate on this test. What you're going to do is go to the y equals, hit in the equation log sine x. Make sure you are in radian mode, and then graph. and then ask for the domain. And when you graph it, if it is not clear, you can hit zoom and then 7, which is called Z trait, and you'll see the graph on here. So you can hit trace and go towards one of the domains. So in our options we have 0 to pi. Let's see if that works. So so pi is one of our domains, and so it's going to be between these two, right? So we're in groups of pi here. Ooh, and we can't have x equals 0 because these are the x will never equal pi. It just reaches pi because these are asymptotes. So it's going to be c, and as you can see from here, that is the graphic calculator. All right, moving on. Which of the following is the ratio of the surface area of a sphere with radius r to its volume? Okay. Surface area from last video is going to be 4 pi r squared. Ratio of the surface area to the ratio of its volume. Volume is 4 thirds pi r cubed, right? So we divide this. So dividing by a fraction is the same thing as multiplying by its reciprocal. So this becomes 3 over 4 pi r cubed, right? So the pi cancels, 4 cancels, and the r squared will cancel. So now we're just left with r, right? So we have 3 over r, and that's the ratio. Okay, two solutions of x squared minus 9x plus c are complex conjugates. Complex conjugates means the I stuff, right? So it's going to have a negative or imaginary value. Which of the following describes all possible values of c? So we know if it is an I, the discriminant, it's going to be a negative, right? Because the only way it becomes an I is when you have a negative square root, because you can't have a negative square root. You can't square root a negative, right? So we're going to have b squared minus 4ac. This must be negative for this to be an imaginary number, right? So b squared is 81 minus 4a is just 1, so it's 4 times c, right? So now we know in order for this value to be negative, this value must be greater than 81. Okay, so divide by 4 each, so c is greater than 81 over 4, d. The numerical value of square root of cosecant x if tan x is 3. So this one's another simple one. We got to take the inverse of tan inverse 3 to get x, right? Because tan inverse that cancels out, and so x equals tan inverse 3. So that's going to give us 1.25, right? Which equals x. So now we plug that into cosecant. So square root of cosecant x is the same thing as saying square root of 1 over sine x, right? What is sine x? Sine x is 1.25. X is 1.25, so sine that. 1 divided by that, and then square root that answer. You should get 1.026. 1.0. Okay, in the figure above, graph equals f of x. Okay, transform, rotated 180, and then reflected. Okay, so if you rotate it 180 degrees, that's half a circle, right? So just gonna flip it like this, right? Because you're rotating 180 degrees this way. And then it's reflected over the x-axis. This is the x-axis. Reflect it. It's the same thing as rotating another 180 degrees. So it's a 360 degrees turn total, which is the same thing, which is back to its original position. So y equals f of x. Okay. Next page. Okay. What does f of x approach as x gets infinitely larger? Okay, so approach, this looks like we're looking for a horizontal asymptote. So to find a horizontal asymptote of rational function, take the leading coefficients of the biggest exponents, right? So you have 3x cubed over 4x squared. This simplified down to 3 over 4x. So as x gets bigger, the numbers just keep getting bigger, right? So it goes all the way to infinity. So e. Oops. Right? Because x can be like a million, it's going to be 3/4 of that, right? It keeps getting bigger and bigger. Set of points x, y, z such that x equals 5. So we have a set of points x, y, and z, so it's not a line. It's not a point. It's not a, okay, it's one of these three. So x, y, z. So we have an x, y, z plane, right? So x could be this, and then y and z could be any number. So this is basically, you can't assume it's a circle, and you can't assume it's a cube. Like, these things, you can't really assume just from 3 coordinates, right? So we're going to say 11 is C, a plane. Okay, a plane has 3 points. Vertical distance between the minimum and maximum values. So this is an absolute function, so it can't be negative. So I'm just going to plug this into the calculator, right? How you're going to do this is y equals, go to plug in. If you want to plug in the absolute value, you're going to hit math, go over to number, hit 1, absolute. And then you plug in the rest. Negative root 2 times sine root 3x. And then the graph should be something like this. That's what your graph should look like. And then you're going to go to the top part, you're going to hit trace, and you're going to follow along the graph and to its highest point, which is 1.41. 1.41. And then the lowest point is about 0. Right? So subtract these minimum and maximum values to get 1.41. 13 and 14. Domain of absolute value of x times -1 plus 2. Okay, f of x has a minimum value when x equals what? So let's just plug this in. So when the absolute value of -1 is just 1, so 1 times negative is -1 plus 2. So when x equals 1, the value equals 1. So what happens when we put 3 in? Okay, so 3 times negative is -3 plus 2 equals -1. So this is the minimum value. So when x equals 3, the minimum value will be -1. Range of the function. Okay, in this one I'm going to graph in my calculator. So we have x squared minus 14x plus 43. And we're going to graph. And then, since mine gets cut off from graphing before, I'm going to hit window. I mean, not window, zoom, and put standard. Zoom 6. And that should have a graph looking like this on your guys' screen. Okay, now you can hit trace and just go to the bottom. Because it's a graph that opens upward. So we know that the bottom value, the minimum value is going to be the vertex, which is just -6. Moving on, page 4. Okay, so positive rational root of the equation. So rational roots, possible rational roots is always going to be the factors of the constant over the factors of the leading coefficient. So factors of -4 is plus or minus 4, plus or minus 2, plus or minus 1, force ending. So these are the possible roots, not these are the roots, right? So it could be 4, it could be 2, it could be 1/4. It could be this, it could be that, it could not be that because there's no 3. Okay, so we eliminated C. Okay, what you could do is you could go in through and plug each x in to see if it equals 0. Each value in for x equals 0, but we're not going to do that. We're going to actually take out, we're going to group this. So we can take out x squared from the 4x cubed. It's 4x minus 1, right? And we'll take out a 4 from the 16x. So we have 4 times 4x minus 1 again. So we just group it out. So this could be, it's going to be equal to x squared plus 4 times 4x minus 1, right? And as you can see, x equals 1/4, right? Just grouping it out. Norm of a vector just means magnitude, and we can just treat these as points, right? So magnitude is going to be square root of 3 squared plus negative root 2 squared, which is going to be 2, right? So 9 plus 2 is 11, square root of 11. .32. Okay, Norman's magnitude, right? Treat those as points. 5 coins are flipped. How many different ways could they fall? How many elements does this contain more than 3 heads? Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the probability of containing more than 3 heads. So it has to contain 4 or 5 heads, right? And this is what we learned in stat. We're going to go to second distribution or calculator, go all the way down to binomial CDF. So B, click on it. Trials is 5 trials. Probability is 1/2 for heads. The x value is going to be 3, right? And this is going to give us a probability of 0.8125, and that's a probability of getting between 0 and 3 heads. And you want to find what's more than 3 heads, so that 1 minus this probability. So you have a probability of 0.1875, right? Okay, that's a probability of getting more than 3 heads, but these are in like whole numbers, right? So we can then multiply this by all the possible outcomes. All the possible outcomes are going to be how many ways can 5 coins be flipped. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 coins, right? The first coin can have 2 outcomes, second coin has 2 outcomes, so yada yada. So it's just basically 2 to the 5th, which is just 32, right? So 0.1875 times 32 is going to be equal to 6. 18. The 7th term of arithmetic sequence is 5, and the 12th term is -15. Okay, finding first term. So arithmetic sequence is just the a of n equals a of 1 first term plus n minus 1 times the common difference. So a of n, which is just this case is going to be 7th term. So a of 7 equals 5, right? Equals the first term plus the common n minus 1, right? Times d. You know, n minus 1 is going to be 6 because n is 7. So this becomes 5 equals a of 1 plus 6d. Same thing for the other one. It's going to be -15 equals a of 1 plus n minus 1, which is just 11. 7d, right? So now we just solve for a. We're going to do linear combination here. -11, 6. So this cancels out. So we're going to cancel out the d. So -55 equals -11a. And then we have -90 equals 6a. Add these two together, -145 equals -5a divided by -5. A should equal 29. The graph of a curve represented by these two functions. Okay, So we're going to treat this as a parametric equation. So we replace theta with t. Okay, we replace theta with t. So now we have x equals secant t, and y equals cosine t. So secant t is the same thing as saying 1 over cosine t, right? And then we have y equals cosine t. So x equals 1 over y. We multiply together, xy equals 1. Cross multiply. So now we have y equals 1 over x. And that's going to give me a function like this. Right? 1 over x. That's how the graph would look like, because if x gets bigger, y gets smaller. X gets smaller, y gets bigger, right? And they have asymptote of 0. So this is looking like a hyperbola to me. And then, so we have two answers of a hyperbola or a portion. So we know the limit of cosine theta is always between 1 and -1, right? So that's the y has to be between 1 and -1, because cosine theta cannot equal more than 1. That's from trigonometry. Secant theta is just 1 over sine theta, so sine theta is always between 1 and -1. So 1 over -1 is just going to be 1 again. So the x values cannot be more than 1 or less than -1. So we have technically a graph is between this box right here, right? So it's going to be a portion of a hyperbola. Point 32 lies on the graph of the inverse. So 3, 2 is on the inverse of this graph, right? So that means 2, 3 must be on this graph, because remember, inverse is just flipping the x and y. So 3, 2 is on the inverse of that. 2, 3 is going to be on the regular graph. So just plug in 2 and 3. 3 equals 2 times x, 2 cubed, which is 16, plus x is 2 plus a. So 18 minus 3 minus 18 is going to be a equals -15. I'm going to use b. What is a plus c? Okay. So they give you the x and y value, so we just plug it in. So f of 1, which is saying x equals 1. When x equals 1, f of x equals 3. So 3 equals, what's 1 squared? 1. 1 times a is a, plus 1 times b, plus c. -1 squared is just going to be 1, right? 1 times a is a. -1 times b is -b. And then plus c. You can see linear combination, this will cancel out. 6 equals 2a plus 2c. Oh my god. Okay, 2a plus 2c, sorry about this. Which is saying 2 times a plus c equals 6. So a equals what? This value must be equal 3. A, B, C, A, B, C. So B equals 42 degrees, right? C equals 30 degrees. So A must equal 180 minus all that. So 180 minus 72. H must equal 180 degrees. AB is 100. What is BC? We're doing law of sines here, so we have sine 108 over AB over BC equals to sine 30 over AB. Right? Law of sines, it becomes 1/2 BC. So make sure go to degree mode for your calculator to input these values in. So sine 108 times 100 divided by 1/2, which is same thing, same times 2, so 190 equals sine equals BC 190. Okay, we're finding solve for x, so sine x equals -3/4. I'm just solving for sine x right here. -3 divided by 4, right? To solve this, take the inverse sign. So inverse sign of -3/4 is, oh, go to radian, forgot. Okay, sine inverse -3 divided by 4. So x should equal to, oh my goodness, I keep hitting that button. X should equal to -0.848, right? And on the graph, that should be like this. This is in radians, right? So this is pi, this is pi over 2, 3 pi over 4, and this is 2 pi, right? So, because we can have two values, right? Because sine is negative in two different places, here and here. So that's why we can have these two values. And we want on the x to be in this domain right here. So it can't be -0.84, right? Because that's less than 0, right? And it can't be 8.848. It has to be pi plus 8.48 and 2 pi minus 8.48. Because this is 8.48, this is 8.48, right? More trick stuff. So pi plus 8.4, no, sorry, pi plus 0.848 equals 0.389. So the only answer that's that is E. And you can check it again, because 2 pi minus 8.848 is going to be 5.345. Okay. Sum of infinite geometric series. Okay, the equation for this you will have to memorize. Is going to be the first term over 1 minus the common ratio. The common ratio is always the one of the terms divided by the term before it. So 4 divided by 6 is equal to 2/3, right? So that's a common ratio, 2/3, because 6 times 2/3 is 4, 4 times 2/3 is 8/3, yada yada. So 1 minus 2/3 is just 1/3, right? And then the first term is 6. 6 divided by 1/3 is same thing, 6 times 3, 18. And a plus bi, find the reciprocal. Okay, the reciprocal of 1 plus 6i is 2 plus 6i is 1/2 plus 6i, right? It's not. They want to trick you with this answer, but remember when you add fractions, they have to sign the same denominator. You can't. This does not equal that. Okay, so that's a trick question or trick answer. So what you wanted to do is to get rid of this on the bottom. When you get rid of an imaginary on the bottom, you want to times it by its conjugate, right? So 2 times -6i over 2 minus 6i times by this. So now you have 2 minus 6i divided by, this is the same thing, this is coming to different squares, right? 2 x minus 2 times x plus 2 is just x squared minus 4. So this becomes 4 minus 6i squared, which is just 36 times -1. Right? So -36 times -1 is 36 plus 4 is going to be 40. 2i minus 6i over 40, that's going to be 1/20 minus 6/40. 6/40 is the same thing as 3/20, right? Okay, central angle, 2 concentric circles. The area of the larger circle is twice the area of the small circle. Oh, area of the sector, which is the same thing. Just area of the circle, twice the area of the small circle, when you say that. What's the ratio of the lengths? So the area of the large sector is twice the area of the small sector. That means the area of the circle is twice the area of the small circle, right? So area of circle is just, if you remember, going to be theta r squared over 2, right? But now remember, let's say this is the big circle. So let's say r is the radius of the big circle, and r2 is the radius of the small one, right? Okay. So now we know the big circle is equal to twice the small circle. So this is 2 times r theta r radius 2 squared, right? Because these radius are not the same. So this big circle is twice the value of the small circle. This just cancels out, right? So now if we cross multiply, we're going to get 2 theta r squared, r2 squared, my bad, equals theta r squared. Now we can see theta cancels out, and now we have r 2 r squared, r2 squared equals r squared. From here, we are gonna divide it by 2. We're gonna solve for r2, so we can divide it by 2 and then square root it. Oh no. Because we have the square values, right? So let's just square both terms to get r by itself. Square root both terms. It will be square root of 2 times r over 2 equals r. Right? Because the square root of 2r2 squared is going to be just anything square root of 2 times the square root of r2 squared. So that's just going to be r2, right? So from here, square root of 2 is equal to what? 1.41. So r is going to be the big radius is going to be equal to the small radius times 1.41. So they have it, the big radius in terms of 1. So it's going to be one of these two values, right? So if we divide it to get this, we have to divide r, which is equal to 1, divided by 0.41, right? Which equals 7.709, which is the same d, right? Because the small value, r2 times 1.41 equals r, okay? So it's basically saying this is r and this is r2. And to find 0.71, I just divided 1 over that to get this. Volume. So we have this line 4 here, minus 4/3, so you rise 4 over 3, so you negative 4, so you can go down negative 4 and over 3. So this is 3 and this is 4. This is a triangle thing, and it's bound by the x and y equals 0. So just this triangle. We're gonna rotate it across the y-axis. So now this becomes a cone, because if you rotate that triangle around the y-axis like this, it becomes a cone, right? Volume of cone is just 1/3 pi r cubed. No, 1/3 pi r squared times height. My bad. Height is 4, r is 3. Plug it in, right? 9 times 4 divided by 3 times pi. 37.699. There are 4 broken transmitters in a box. Out of 12. What's the probability that none of them are broken? So that is pretty simple. There's 12, right? So what's the probability of getting? So you're pulling out it 3 times, and we want each time to be that's not broken. So the probability of it not being broken is 8 of 12, right? Now, if you pull that out, what's the probability that you're getting another one? So now there's only 7 not broken ones over a total of 11. And if you got 3 times, it becomes this. plug it in. 56 times 6 divided by 120 divided by 11 should equal 2.2545 repeating. Domain. So we have cube root of this. So this could be any all real numbers, because you can cube root any number, right? If this was a square root, then this number would have to be positive, and it couldn't be negative. So then you have to do calculation. But since you know it's a cube root, you can cube root any number. You can cube root a positive number, and you can cube root a negative number, right? Right. Almost done. Not almost. We're 60% of the way done. Horizontal asymptote. Again, you want to find a horizontal asymptote. It's the same thing as a limit. Take the first the leading terms. This is 3x over 4 divided by 2x to the fourth. This cancels out 3 halves, right? That's the horizontal asymptote. E. Okay. Blah, 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 blah. Seems like a log thing. So how many years to take an initial amount of 250 milligrams to decay to 100 milligrams? So we have, just plug it as an A's original amount. So 250 times, hold on. Okay, sorry about that. Back to the video. 250 times e to the negative t equals e of t, which is just going to be 100, right? Solve this as 100 divided by 250. So we have natural log e. So this is the answer, 100 over 250 equals the exponent, which is just going to be negative t 500, right? Natural log stuff. And t should get 459 or 458. 458.145. Again, this seems to be remainders. This is like the first, one of the first few problems we did. We just synthetic division. This will be -1 over, what do we have here? This is just 2 times n plus 3. So this will be, so let's say n was 0, right? This would be 3, 2, and 1, and -8. So this would be like 3x cubed plus minus 4x squared, blah 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 blah. So let's just imagine n as 0. So we have in 3 here, and then -4 here, and then 5 here, and then -8. This is cube, squared, x, and a constant. Same thing as we did before. Oh, oops, 3. 1 times 3 is -3, -7, 8. Oh, 7, 12, -12, -20. Boom. Foreman. Probability that man A is between the first or the last row. So what's the probability? So how many total outcomes are there, right? So if we ignore this, the second condition, there's a total of 24 outcomes. How do I know that? Because the first slot you can put 4 people, the second slot you can put 3 people, the third slot you can put 2 people, and so on. So that's the total amount of different orders, right? And now it's asking what happens if man A is in the first or the last row, right? So now let's say that means given the condition is A is in the first row, right? Let's ignore the last row for a second. Let's just ignore how many times can he be in the first row? So the first row, if A is here, that means there's 3 other spots, right? That means you can put B, C, D here, and then put the other one there, other one there. So there's sort of 6 outcomes where A is in the first row. Now flip it. What happens if A is in the last row? So it's A here. So you can put all the other letters here, right? This is combinatorics, right? So you can have 3 permutations. You can have 3 people here, 3 you can put A, B, C here, or not, B, C, or D here, and you can put B, C, and then you can put D there, right? That's the total amount of orders with A in the first and A in the last row. So that's 6. So 6 plus 6 is 12. 12 plus 24 is 1/2. Right? Because if A is here, right, that means you have 3 letters left. If A is in the last row, you can put B, C, or D here, right? That's why I put there. And once you chose one of the letters, you only have 2 more letters left, right? So that's why there's a number 2 here, times 2. And once there's that, there's only 1 more letter left, because only 3 total letters, right? So that's just times 1. And that's how you do it. And if you want to learn more about this, I learned it from Khan Academy. So it's a pretty good resource. Go there. They have the section on permutations and combinatorics. Check that out if you want to give some more practice on this. Okay, we have summation notation on the 34 here. Okay, summation notation. Usually, this means it's a constant. So this is going to be equal to NC. N is equal to 8. So it's going to be 40. 40 times 5. And how I know this is because if I is the first term, this is the last term, right? So there's 8 total terms, so 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, right? So it's 8 total terms. And then the constant is 5, so it's going to be equal to 5 plus 5 plus 5 again, right? Usually, it's like this, where I equals 3 and 10 here, and this would be like x to the I, right? So this would be equal to x to 3 plus x to the 4, x to the 5, right? And not to the 5, x sub 5. So this is gonna be like 3 plus 4 plus 5 plus 6, on and on and on, right? Okay, so that's that. But this, instead of having x here, you have a constant here, so you're gonna add the same thing each time for 8 times. That's how you get 40. Summation notation. Symmetric to which of the following? Okay, so if it's symmetric to the x-axis, right? Like say this. F of x, what was it? Negative f of x. So f of x should equal negative f of x. Or something like that. So x has to equal both. Or something like this. Okay. Alright. I'm gonna find out what the exact rules. I'm gonna come back to that. So let's say the y-axis. The y-axis is here. If it's symmetric to the y-axis, like that, we know that f of negative x equals f of x, right? So if we plug negative x, it should have the same equation. So negative x here squared is going to be the same thing. So it has to be 2. So anything that doesn't include 2 is wrong. Alright, and the rule for the origin is negative f of x equals negative f of negative x. And that would be like this, right? So symmetric to the origin, so negative f of x here should equal to f of negative x. So f of negative x is going to be here, right? And then the negative value, let's say x was 5, right? Which is here. That means this would be 5. Assuming this step was just 1, right? If it's symmetric to the origin, f of negative 5 should be equal to f of 5 times negative 1, which is right here. So it is true. So it's 1 and 3. So it has to be all of them, right? It has to include 3 as well. And I'm trying to remember what it was for the rule for x, metric over x thing like this. whereas you have this thing. So if f of x equals negative f of x. I think it's just that. So if we put in, this value should equal this value times negative 1, right? So say this value was 1, or this is 1, right? So this represents this graph right here. So when say this point is 1, 1, this is negative 1, 1, negative 1, negative 1. So when you plug in x, it should both equal the positive and the negative value, right? So if you make y negative, it should equal the original graph. So if you make y negative, negative y to the fourth, it's the same thing as y to the fourth, right? So that's why it's all three of them. Okay, that's why. Cool things. How many students take both French and Spanish? So 30 take 30 total 30, 20 take French and 15 take Spanish. If I take neither, you can draw a Venn diagram. Make this bigger. Oh, it's as big as it goes. So this is group, right? So this is French, Spanish, neither. Neither has 5 people. French and Spanish has between a total of 25 students, right? Because if I take neither, that means 25 students left to take Spanish and French, or both. Spanish or French, or both, right? So we know that 20 take French and 15 take Spanish. That's a total of 35, right? But we know it has to be 25. So 35 minus 10 equals 25. So 10 is the amount of students that take both. So we put 10 in here. That means there's going to be 10 left over here and 5 here. So 10 plus 10 plus 5 is 25, and it all works out. So how many take both? 10. Those getting a little dry. Right? Okay. This one's pretty easy too. Just plug in x squared. Plug in x plus h for f of x. So f of x plus h, you plug this in here. Plug this for x. So x plus h squared minus f of x, which is just x squared over h. Simplify. X squared plus 2hx plus h squared minus x squared over h. This cancels. There we have, take out the h, plus 2 plus h over h. 2 plus h. 2x plus h. Alright, this should be hx. I missed that, so this should be 2x right here. Okay, this one is finding the volume of an equation. So this forms a pyramid. So if I draw this plane here, right? So let's say when x, so let's file for x. Let's find the x-intercept, basically. I'm saying, so like 0 for y and 0 for z. X should be 6. So let's say this is x, this is the y plane, and then here's the z plane. So x is 6 when both of those other things equal 0. So this is 6. Do the same thing. Find y-intercept, which is 5. Z-intercept, which is 3. So now we have this thingy here, this little pyramid. Find the volume of it. Volume of pyramid was what? 1/3 base times height. Base of triangle, right? So what's the base of triangle? This is 3, this is 5, so it's 1/2 base times height. So it's 5 times 3 over 2, which is 15, right? So 15 is the base. Divided by 3, it's just 5, so 5h. And the height is going to be 6, so 30, I think. range. Okay, this is a similar problem to one we saw last video. It cannot equal -1 because this cannot equal 0, right? If it's a numerator, there will always be I don't know. I don't know how to explain this right now, but like this can never equal 0, right? Because no matter what x value you plug in, 3 divided by something is always going to be some kind of a number, right? Rational or irrational number, doesn't matter. But and this bottom part can't equal 0 either, because 3 divided by 0 is not a thing. That's undefined, right? It's undefined, you can't do that. So that's why this can never equal 0, so f of x can never equal -1. If you add, the mode is 2, so 2 has to be the most amount of numbers. So 2 here, 3 of them, right? There's 3 2's. Which the statements must be true. If x equals 1 or 3, so if x right here is 1 or 3, that means now they're all tied in quantity. Then y must be 2. Yeah, it's true. If both x and y must be greater than 3. No, that has nothing to do with mode. No. X could be like 50 and y could be 0, and it's still, the mode would still be 2, so no. It does kind of matter because like x can't be 3 and y can't be like 1, because then there will be no mode. X or y must equal 3, and the other one must, it doesn't have to, right? Composite functions and methods. Okay, g of f of x and f of g of x. Plug it in. Plug x squared into this. This is 2x squared plus 3. Vice versa. Plug this into that. Squaring this, so root 2x plus 3 squared is just to be 2x plus 3, right? Solve, square each side. 2x squared plus 3 equals 4x squared plus 12x plus 6. This is x squared plus 2ax plus b squared, right? Or this squared, this term, b. This simplifies down to 2x squared plus 12x plus 3. Oh, it should be 9. What am I doing? 3 squared is 9. So minus 3 now is going to be 6. I got a 2. 2 times x squared plus 6x plus 3. This factors down into x. Oh, you can't find that. I'm going to use the quadratic equation. So the quadratic equation is solve for x. Negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So square root of 36 minus 20 minus 12, so square root of 24. So negative 6 plus square root of 24 divided by 2, that should equal negative 0.55. So none of this nonsense. Negative 6 minus square root of 24 divided by 2 should equal, so x can equal both of these, negative 5.45 d, but you can see d is positive, so that's not it. So that's be one of these. So one of these things probably doesn't work into the equation. Let's plug it in. Let's see. Oh, right here. Oh wait, 5.5 is not even an answer, so it's just a. And how I know this doesn't work, just besides from reading the answer choices, is because if you plug this into here, negative 5.45 times 2 is going to be like almost 11, right? Negative 11. Negative 11 plus 3 is going to still be a negative number, and you can't square root a negative number, so that's why this doesn't work. So it's just negative 0.55. Solving inequalities. So this one we're going to solve for both x and y. What can they equal? So it's going to be x squared minus 3x plus 2 less than 0. So we have 2 and 1. So x is between 2 and 1. What's y over here? Y is between 1 and negative 2. Okay. Oh, y twice. Y. Okay. So y can equal any number between that, and x can be equal any number between this. So x times y. No. Okay, so it should be d. How do I know this? Because what's the minimum value? X when x equals 2, y could equal negative 2. So the minimum value is negative 4, right? That's the maximum value when x equals 2 and y equals 1. So that's the maximum value is 2. This one, sine a. Okay, so they gave you this. You can just find the it in radians, right? So inverse sine here is going to give you the measure angle B and A in radians. So take pi minus measure angle B minus measure angle A, which should be the angle. Measure angle A equals measure angle C. Okay. So let's make sure your thing is in radians. Okay. So sine inverse 1/3 is 0.34. I'm gonna store x that to keep it there, and then sine inverse 1/4 is going to be 0.253. So that plus sine A is going to be 0.59, and you take pi minus that, because a triangle has 180 degrees, which is saying things pi radians, right? So pi minus that, so sine C, no, measure angle C equals 2.549. And to find the sine, to find sine C, just sine that. So sine measure angle C should be 0.5584, which is 0.56. Oops. We're almost done yet. 2 more pages. Let's finish this through. Goodness me. Okay, we're solving inequality x minus 1 greater than 2x. X minus 1 is less than negative 2x. Alright, let's just solve for absolute value. Make one negative, make one positive, flip the sign. So x less than negative 1, and we have x, 3x greater than 1. X is less than 1/3. So anything greater than 1/3 is wrong. Yeah. So A or B. Can it be B? No, it can't. Okay. The reason why 44 has correct, because it cannot be 0, because if it's 0, anything divided by 0 is undefined, right? So this one includes 0, so it's wrong. Translation, just gotta translate. So translate it 2 to right. So that's gonna be negative x minus 2 cubed. 3 is down, so 2 minus 3 is negative 1. Plug it in. Now plug in x. You should get 31.768. Okay, these are equilateral triangles. This is equilateral, so all these sides are the same. Altitude is b to e. if a plane cuts the figure, what's the volume? So this plane cuts that. So we have this tiny little triangle right here. Well, I don't know if it's tiny, but we have this triangle. We have this little person cut out, and we have this cut out. What's the ratio of one to the other? Well, this, like in my head, I'm picturing this should be 1/3 of the original volume, and the other thing should be 2/3. So 1 to 2 EA, or yeah, 1 to 2 D. Because if they're equilateral, this should be just 1/3, right? Yeah, because this thing is equilateral. 3 of these pieces will equal this original piece. Last one, last page. Ooh, this one's a little blurry, but we can work with it. Range of a piecewise function. I'm just gonna graph this. I like graphing it. It helps me a little bit. Oops. Oh my gosh, this pen is here. Erase where? No, erase. Graphing this. This is in vertex form. So the center is 1, -2. And it goes upwards. So I'm assuming it's gonna be like this. And then this one's a line. So put 5 is a y-intercept. Go down -2. And x is greater than 6. So this is gonna be down here, right? And this is gonna be, and x is less than 6. So this should be over here. So infinite and negative. Infinity. Maybe A. Definitely not just one. It has to be both. So not be one of these. I don't think it could be this one because this one doesn't have an equal sign, so it's a less than. So there must be a number that doesn't equal to E. And I guess we can solve this because if we solve for this one x greater than 6, let's put 6. That's going to be -12 plus 5 is -7, right? So -7 is the minimum value, or the maximum value, because if x keeps getting bigger, this will keep getting smaller, because bigger number times negative is going to be a big negative number, right? So this keeps getting smaller, so I can see why this is a thing. And -2 to infinity, because the minimum value is -2, that's the constant right there. And the graph opens up, so it keeps going up. So that's infinity. As long as x is less than 6, so it's gonna be the left side of the graph, I'm assuming. Okay. Length of the major ellipse, so we can solve for an ellipse, major axis of ellipse. So we're just gonna complete the square. To group this out, let's just come 3 times x squared minus 2x plus, group this out, 2 times y squared plus 4y. Boom. From here, just complete the square. It's gonna be x minus 1 squared. So you plus 1 here times 3, so it's gonna be 3 over here. And this is gonna be 2 times y plus 2 squared. It's gonna be 4 plus 2. 4 times 2 is 8, and minus 1 plus, can't see it, minus 1 plus 1 over here, so it's 12. So 12, and for an ellipse this needs to equal 1, So divide it by 12. Divide everything by 12. This is 1/4 x minus 1 squared, and we have 1/6 y. So a value is equal to square root of 6, because 6 is equal to a squared, right? This is more conic section stuff from pre-calculus, so I'm not gonna go over it in this video, but that's just what it is. And then the length of the major ellipse is gonna be like this, right? This is a, and this is a. So length of it's gonna be 2a, so 2 times that. 2 more questions. Okay. What's the probability of a student, a girl who plays the sport? Probability that she's a girl is 60%. Probability a girl plays sports. It's just that simple. Okay, 0.39. X minus 7 is a root, so x minus 7 divides. Oh, you can't see this anymore. X minus 7 divides that, so x minus 7 is a factor, right? So x equals 7. So this is a root. So you plug in 7 here, this all should equal to 0. If you plug in 7 as x, all this should be equal. So 7 cubed minus 3 times k cubed times 7 squared minus 13 times 7 minus 7. This simplifies down to 343. 7 squared is 49. 49 times 3 is going to be 147. So minus 147 k cubed minus 13 times 7, 91. Minus 7 equals 0. So add this all, move all the numbers to the right side. So we have negative 147 k cubed equals 97, 91 plus 7 minus 343, negative 245. Okay, we're gonna, oops, can't read this. Negative 245 divided by negative 147, and then cube root it. Math 4. 1.185. Okay. That is it. That is the math level subject test level 2, math level 2 from Barron's, practice test number 3. And yeah, and I'm gonna upload the answer key correctly this time, I hope. Okay, so here's the answer key, and I'll let you guys take a look at it, check your answers. And once again, I am a tutor from Guac Tutoring, this online tutoring service that me and my friend and I both started. All our proceeds will go to the Houston Food Bank. So if you guys like the video and how I teach, and you want extra help, please check out our website. I do teach math, like geometry and algebra, pre-calculus, so, and as well as lower grade level. So if you guys want to get a head start on high school math or any kind of math, please feel free to check me out. Yeah, now that's it. Here's the answer key, and I'll see you guys next time.